Dear Governor Newsom, we write you with concerned minds and distressed hearts. In early August, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a landmark study. The findings are stark and dire. The consequences of climate change are widespread, rapid, and intensifying.
That is why today I call on all leaders worldwide to declare a state of climate emergency in their countries until carbon neutrality is reached.
We don't have to look very hard at the UN study to conclude that those most affected by climate change are people of color who live in both urban centers and rural communities. As environmental justice advocates, we consider the outcomes for these communities to be a barometer of our society's commitment to progressive values.
But we all need to pass a credibility test. Let's make the promise of a net zero world a reality now.
Reality is that the church has always been for us the major agent for community change.
Reverend Ambrose Carroll is the leader of the faith-based sustainability organization, Green the Church.
Listen, we have one planet, and we've been making decisions about economies of scale, about how we energize ourselves, and we've been making decisions based on profit. We have been choosing to try to provide energy from life from dead things, right? Instead of reaching up to the sun that is alive.
Esperanza Vielma is the executive director of the Environmental Justice Coalition for Water. She sits on the Environmental Justice Advisory Group for the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District.
People say it's just another drought, but it's really climate change. And the people most affected are the working families who live in our environmental justice communities. Protecting them is a fundamental challenge for all of us.
A concerned Reverend Carroll and Esperanza Vielma took action and formed the Coalition for Environmental Equity and Economics, or the CEEE.
We are creating a place and a space for people of color to come and say that this is a place that we can trust. So we're excited to have that kind of educational component that we can share with individuals throughout the whole state of California.
Even though we're in a climate crisis that demands we transform to a sustainable economy, that doesn't mean those interests whose profits are threatened by the coming transformation aren't fighting that change. We created the CEEE to counter the utility industry's misleading narrative and help educate our environmental justice communities about the progressive benefits of distributed solar energy.
Today, we find it hard to see a better future. The truth is that the consequences of climate change are severe. The elderly and young are the most imperiled. As temperatures reach record highs, being able to afford essential air conditioning is increasingly out of reach. As California's historic drought deepens, our air is fouled, first by the wildfires, then by the need to activate the dirty peaker plants in our neighborhoods to avoid power blackouts.
Across the United States, there are over 1,264 largely unregulated peaker plants, with 84 here in California, where they tend to be larger than average and release more pollutants. And these dirty plants are most often located in economically distressed working communities. As a public health solution to the peaker plants, the Coalition for Environmental Equity and Economics advocates for clean local energy projects, such as microgrids and community solar, modeled after other successful efforts in the state.
In some of these areas, people who already have asthma, who are already suffering from pollution, get hit once again. We have to learn how to begin to break some of these systems down that have been built up to ramp up energy in ways that bring on pollution. And we have to say to our public officials that there's only so much of that we really can take.
It is clear to us that net metering and the state's incentives have collectively helped create affordable ways for working families, schools, churches, and small businesses to access rooftop solar. These public policies fulfill two elements of environmental equity: affordable energy and cleaner air. That's a net win for the EJ communities we represent. California should be looking at ways to make net metering even more accessible and equitable, not less, as we work to combat climate change by expanding clean energy access.
Caro Rabago was a pioneer in promoting affordable green energy. One of the first Latinos to serve on a state public utilities commission, he also served as Deputy Assistant Secretary at the U.S. Department of Energy, where he managed the country's renewable energy research and development programs.
One of the major arguments that utilities use in an effort to oppose customers installing their own solar is the cost shift argument. And that argument has been presented in a misleading way. And unfortunately, a great many citizens and policymakers and regulators have bought into the misleading line that's been fed to them by utilities and utility supporters. Let's be clear. Many utilities, whether they'll admit it or not, see small customers making electricity as competition and as a threat to their profits. Those utilities have made big promises to their shareholders in New York, and those shareholders in New York expect high levels of sales to deliver on the profits and the promises that are made. And when customers basically take matters into their own hands, that's a threat to utility profits.
And the solar panels.
Destiny Rivas is a native rights activist. Her home in a working community in central Stockton is powered by solar panels.
I'm not gonna lie, my bill goes really high. It's usually about $600, sometimes even $800. Next month, my bill's gonna be $100. It's already kind of set up.
So I think that there's a lot of naysayers that'll say that, our communities of color, our environmental justice communities, they basically don't need this. Yeah.
I mean, look at the sky. This is from the fires that's going on right now. And we need to make sure that we do all of our part everywhere. The narrative that's being put out by PG&E and a lot of the other companies is horrific. It's really damaging what can be done with the communities. Having this up there is going to save us. It's going to save us by financial independence, and then it's also going to give us a way to help back our Mother Earth, because that is very huge in our community, and climate change is real.
Absolutely. So the main part of this is for us to push ahead and push our policymakers to make those substantive changes for our community members, especially our EJ community members.
Absolutely. They really need to listen to the people and not to the lobbyists.
As our leaders are forced to make policy decisions dictated by a changing climate, more and more consumers will make the switch from a fossil fuel-powered lifestyle. California's use of electricity will expand exponentially. In the coming years, if the investor-owned utilities continue to work against the best interest of our planet and its people, our aging power grid will require billions of dollars in taxpayer-funded investment just to keep pace with the increased demand for electricity. We have no choice but to find a better way.
We've got to take advantage of the fact that we can now put our power plants on our roofs and hire workers to do that work. Keep those batteries in the garages or in our communities so that our system can stay strong no matter what the weather brings. All of this is the best way to take care of ordinary Californians and their energy future.
We can now make a major projection. CNN projects that California's Democratic Governor, Gavin Newsom, defeats the recall and will serve out the year plus left on his term.
We said yes to all those things that we hold dear as Californians, and I would argue as Americans: economic justice, social justice, racial justice, environmental justice, our values where California's made so much progress.
Governor Newsom prevailed over a cynical recall election effort. Now, Californians like Destiny Rivas and advocates and consumers across our state are looking to Governor Newsom for bold leadership.
This is really a debate between energy democracy and energy monopoly. The utilities want to preserve their control over every aspect of power generation and distribution to protect their energy monopoly and their billions in profits, while we in the environmental justice community want energy equity, where people are free to generate and distribute energy in ways that are more reliable, more efficient, cost less, and don't pollute our air.
Governor Newsom, This moment is one of the most important in human history. Climate change is an existential threat to our planet and its people. We can either continue to listen to the lies and manipulations of those interested only in maximizing their profits and perpetuating the use of fossil fuels, or we can move forward with moral courage and begin the steps to reverse climate change.
People need to know that although the earth is heating up, people need to know the truth always. We need to know the difficulty that is coming so that we can prepare ourselves, so that we can be resilient. People need to know that everything's going to be all right. Right, and reach towards, and not people need to know that although the earth is heating up, people need to know the truth always. We need to know the difficulty that is coming, when people so that we can prepare ourselves and reach so towards that we can life, be resilient. People need to know that when people pull together and reach